In this weight loss mindset tip episode, you'll learn the most common emotional eating mistake and how to fix it. If you find yourself digging through the fridge, even though you just had dinner, going to the break room to find a snack just because you're bored or stressed at work, or having chocolate chips, cookies, or alcohol after the kids are in bed because you need some you time, welcome to the Emotional Eating Club, my friend. You are not alone. I am in it with you, and we are on this journey to better physical and emotional health together. One important thing to recognize is that this is not a quick fix. There are so many things that you can do to help with emotional eating, and if you're an action taker, you're probably already trying some of them. You can drink more water, eat more protein, eat more fiber, sleep more, reduce your stress, and choose tea instead of sweets in the afternoon or after dinner. While all of these things are beneficial, they still overlook the most important thing that you can do to reduce your emotional eating. This one thing is absolutely free, but it does require your attention and focus. It's an exercise that I'm going to take you through in this episode. And if you don't do this mindset work, all of the strategies that I just mentioned about improving how you eat and sleep and de-stress will not be as effective. Emotional eating is a type of mental weight. You can't measure it on the scale. You have to lose mental weight with mental weight loss techniques, not physical weight loss strategies. The biggest problem people make when it comes to emotional eating is not taking the time to fully understand the emotional eating cycle and all of their cues that make them want to eat. Emotional eating is not a quick fix because there are so many cues that activate your desire to eat. The reason that dealing with your emotional eating can take a long time is because some of these cues only come around once a year or less. Just think about your cravings to eat things you wouldn't otherwise eat, how they skyrocket at a funeral, when you're around certain family members or in a certain emotional state that you're not in very often. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments when you seem to struggle the most with emotional eating. To appreciate the mindset exercise I'm going to teach you, let's first review the emotional eating cycle. There are 4 phases to this cycle. The cycle starts with your cue. Everyone has different eating cues for emotional eating. These cues can be positive, neutral, or negative experiences or emotions. And not all emotional eating is due to negative emotions. Mine is actually due more from positive. When I'm excited or around people I love, I tend to augment that with food. Some common examples are maybe something upsets you, being stressed, feeling fatigued at the end of the day, and feeling like you earned a reward, either from a workout, reaching a goal, or in my case, simply putting my kids to bed. The next step in the cycle is the craving. They are for certain tastes or textures, often from foods high in refined and processed carbohydrates or sweeteners. The sweet taste, regardless of whether it comes from caloric or non-caloric sweeteners, is what you're craving. More specifically, you're craving the dopamine release that makes you feel good after you eat something sweet. The next step is your response. This is the act of emotional eating. The problem with emotional eating is that the reward changes often within a matter of seconds. The immediate reward of the emotional eating is positive. Food, especially sweets, triggers the dopamine reward center in your brain and makes you feel good. But the longer-term effect of emotional eating is negative. This negative feeling can be a cue to start emotionally eating again. So it's a cycle. So to identify your emotional eating cues, what we recommend is journaling through the following 5 questions each time that you're tempted to or actually do emotionally eat. What time was it? Who was I with? What was I doing? Where was I? And what emotions did I feel? We recommend doing this for an extended period of time. This is not a one and done exercise. You may struggle with emotional eating at night and decide to fix that problem first. But then you haven't learned how to address emotional eating when you're at a summer barbecue or when you're on vacation with friends that you haven't seen in a long time. Or maybe normally you've learned to not crave cookies January through November, but then Christmas time comes around and you're exposed to Christmas cookies that you're only exposed to once a year. It's a new cue. It's a new experience that leads to new environmental cues that will activate your desire to emotionally eat. You'll have to work through the cues as you're exposed to them in your environment. And then you can reverse engineer your environment to reduce your exposure to the cue or to make an alternative plan to eating. Over time, you're going to see patterns emerge. Maybe you always end up eating candy when your partner restocks the pantry. Maybe you mindlessly finish your kids' food. Maybe you mindlessly graze while you're cooking dinner. Maybe you have mindlessly gone back for seconds out of that subconscious messaging that you received as a child to not waste food and clean your plate. Maybe you always stop by your favorite ice cream shop when you're on your way home after going out to eat because you're not down there very often. Maybe your cue is sitting on the couch after a long day, and this activates a craving for popcorn and chocolate chips. All of these were examples from my own life. They took intentional reflection, time, and practice to identify. You can do this cue finding exercise proactively before you emotionally eat, but I have found that reflecting after you emotionally eat actually brings out richer information. Because let's face it, emotional eating is not always fun, and for some people, it activates a lot of negative emotions like guilt, shame, or depression. It can drive a desire to isolate and feel very lonely. But this emotional pain is there for a reason. Pain in our body is there to make us pay attention. That's why we have receptors in our fingers that let us know if a pan that we're touching is hot. We can be talking with someone in the kitchen, and then all of a sudden, we feel a hot pan, and our attention is turned towards that pan. This is so we can remove our hand from the dangerous situation to prevent a serious burn. These painful emotions are there for the same reason. Your inner wisdom wants you to pay attention to them so that you can learn from them and not keep making the same mistakes. Consider negative emotions like a U-turn sign from the universe saying, hey, you're headed down a painful path. Let's make a U-turn and choose better feeling thoughts that produce better feeling emotions. So if you have had an emotional eating episode, work through these cue finding questions. One way that you can do this is in the C.L.E.A.R exercise. So to do this, use a sheet of paper and draw a line vertically down the middle. On the left side, write the letters C.L.E.A.R. C stands for circumstance and context. Use the emotional eating prompt questions here. And again, those were what time is it? Who was I with? What was I doing? Where was I? What emotion did I feel? L stands for line of thinking. E stands for emotions and feelings. A stands for actions, and R stands for results. Now, I usually don't fill in this framework from top to bottom. I start by asking someone to describe the context and circumstance. This usually draws out the context, emotions, actions, and results. But what takes some backtracking is the thoughts, the line of thinking. Your thoughts are what produce your emotions. So the real trick here is to identify the thought between the cue and the craving. On the right side, write out a thought that would have caused or created a different emotion, action, and result that you can use the next time you're in a similar situation. So let's take the Christmas cookie example. The cue could be just seeing the cookie. The thought is, those look good. I wonder how they taste. The craving is stimulated, which is the curiosity to taste them and the dopamine response that you know that you're going to get. The action is the response. So you ate the cookie or cookies, and the result is the reward. It was yummy, but you regretted it later because you went back for 2 more, and then later that day you had even more sweets. So where did it all start? With the thought that those look good. I wonder how they taste. So the second part of the C.L.E.A.R exercise is to complete the right side of the paper. This is where you're going to go back in time to the same context and circumstance. And instead of thinking your automatic thought, choose a different thought. So an example would be, those look good. I wonder how they taste. I've had Christmas cookies before. I know how they taste. I know that having one will make me want 3, so I'm not going to have any right now. I'm going to make a cup of tea instead. If I still want one later, I'll allow myself to have one, but I will choose to not emotionally eat right now. Then that produces a different emotion of empowerment and clarity. You gave your brain clear instructions on what you want instead. That's why this is called the C.L.E.A.R exercise. Give your brain clear instructions and it will follow them. The action then will be different, as will the result. Once you identify your cues for emotional eating, you can make a plan to reduce your exposure or have an alternative behavior for when you are exposed to that cue. A big example from my own life is the habit of having something sweet every night after dinner. This cue was ingrained in me as a little girl because we always had dessert growing up. So the end of the meal became a cue that activated a craving for something sweet. I had to create a plan for when I was exposed to that cue each and every day after dinner. A couple of the ideas that have worked for my own life are brushing my teeth right after dinner and then having a sparkling water or a hot cup of tea. I'm definitely not perfect. I still have something sweet after dinner sometimes, but when I do, I try to make that sweet a healthier option than a standard dessert. A common one for me right now are some stevia chocolate chips and some cashews. But it's better than having a whole sleeve of Girl Scout cookies or a bunch of sugary ice cream or several cookies. I know for me, having sugar really does increase my craving for more sugar. I have to recognize that if I start with sugar or if I start with alcohol, my cravings for sugar will be higher. I will have to exhibit a greater amount of self-control to not have more and more. And I know myself well enough to know that my self-control and willpower is lowest at night. So if I can, as James Clear says in Atomic Habits, master the moment of decision and say no once, I won't have to say no to the sweets several times later. The sweetness on the tongue in and of itself can be a cue. So if you can change that taste on your tongue to something minty that removes the sweet cue that's causing the craving for more sweets, that's great. Brushing your teeth or chewing a piece of gum are just 2 ideas here. You'll have so many more cues to work through in your own life. What I recommend you do is start with the most obvious example of emotional or mindless eating. Maybe it's eating a couple pieces of candy while you're on the computer during work. Figure out what the exact cue is. Then figure out the thought between the cue and the craving. Reverse engineer your environment to reduce your exposure to the cue. And proactively choose a thought that you're going to think next time you're exposed to the cue that gives your brain a clear alternative. I hope you found this weight loss mindset tip episode helpful today and that you start to uncover your own emotional eating cues. Again, this is not a quick fix process. It's not always an easy process. If you need some help with it, you can check out our coaching options linked in the description below. As always, please take a moment to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or follow if you're listening to the podcast. It shows your support for the show and helps us help more people. Let me know what your big takeaways from this episode are in the YouTube comments, or you can send us a direct message on Instagram. Our handle is @Zivli. If you're on YouTube, I highly suggest you watch this video about 6 things to stop saying to lose more weight, and check out this playlist with more weight loss mindset tips. I'll talk with you again soon.